Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm seeing some faces in amazing places. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hey, hey, hey. I'm rhyming. That's the end of my rhymes, I promise. I'm not going to do anything. How are we all doing today? If you could just, in the chat, just message where you are right now in the world, in England, in London, wherever you may be. Let's just see who's in the audience today. Cardiff. Hey, hello, Cardiff. Your name's not Cardiff, but hello. Hi, Gloria. Peterborough. I actually have cousins in Peterborough. That's brilliant. From Manny, Manchester. You lot. Kuwait. Oh my goodness, we are actually global today. Kuwait. Hey, hey.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Complete side note here. I'm not sure if any of you watched Tiny Desk, but recently Neo had a Tiny Desk, and I didn't know this, but Neo wrote, "You should let me love you, let me." I didn't know. I didn't know, people. London, Detroit. Did you lot know? Did you lot know this about Neo? I just thought he was bold and good looking. That's it. I didn't know he wrote that.
I didn't know that either, but I will say shout out to NPR and Tiny Desk. I absolutely love those concerts.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Gorgeous.
And they have such a wide variety. I've met new artists. Sampha, I never knew about Sampha. He's in around Morden. I have family in Morden. Didn't know that. Was mad. Okay, we got some Cardiff people here. Got a few of you lot. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Tuesday. I might just wait a couple more minutes and then we'll start off and I'll lay the groundwork and we can get straight into this. Liverpool! I don't like your football team. You always, I don't know. You're nice people though. Yeah. Oh, welcome. I'm loving this. We should really talk to Zoom to create like Zoom music, you know, like elevator music, but for Zoom, just to allow people to come in.
I think you're doing that for us.
Yeah,
exactly.
My sound is music. Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's the best compliment I've received today. Thank you.
Love that for you, Abina.
I'm smiling now. Like we can end the call right now. I'm just
Yeah, definitely less boring than elevator music. Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. All right. Cool. Just out of curiosity, who here in the chat, just say in the chat yes or no if you've heard of Philip Morris International before, or PMI, whichever one you like to talk about more. If you've heard about it, say yes. If you haven't, say no. We got some yeses, we got some no's. Okay. Ooh, got a mix. We've got a mix. No. Okay. So we're gonna have some education pieces here today. Okay. Heard. Okay. There we go. If you heard about it, you're gonna stop listening to the rumors now. You're gonna get some truth about PMI. Yeah. Well, some more yeses. Good. I like the variety in this crowd. And you lot are very responsive. Can you everyone just like high five me right now? High fives in the chat. Well, to the screen too, okay.
I love that we all did that.
We all did this.
We're bringing the vibes.
There we go.
Not gonna leave you hanging.
All right. We are, okay. Thank you, high five. I appreciate you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you lot. Oh, you know, do you remember back in school days when you had assemblies and the students were just quiet while teachers were really trying to bring the vibe? You lot are better than that. Thank you. We've grown up. I respect us all tonight. Okay, I think a few minutes have gone now. I'm just gonna start with the intro so that we can be economizing everyone's time today. So, hey everyone, my name's Obina and I'm here representing BYP, Black Young Professionals Network. And we've had ourselves on partnerships with exciting businesses, and Philip Morris International is definitely an exciting business. We began the partnership with Philip Morris last year and enjoyed working with all of the team here to share new opportunities on our job board and collaborate with their DAI team, so an employee resource group to spotlight their Black employees. Last year, if you were there, that would be awesome. We co-hosted an in-person event with PMI called Celebrating Black Talent with PMI, which promoted connection and exchange of knowledge. And some of their senior Black employees, and some of them are here today to talk to you, including two, and there are two of them here, spoke about their careers and what the company is doing to promote racial diversity and inclusion internally. We also did a collaborated blog post sharing career journeys of some of the Black employees there. So as you can see, this is a genuine partnership because we're all about making impacts. Now, some of you in the audience today have said you do not know who Philip Morris International PMI are, and I'm here to educate you right now. Okay. Philip Morris International PMI is a leading international tobacco company working to deliver a smoke-free future and evolving its portfolio for the long term to include products outside of the tobacco and nicotine sector. When I said exciting business, I said exciting business. Since 2008, PMI has invested more than 10.5 billion US dollars to develop and scientifically substantiate smoke-free products for adult smokers with the goal of completely ending the sale of cigarettes. Oh my days. I'm not sure if you remember primary school biology, but them lungs from the cigarettes, black, and not the good type, you know? So it's great to see this revolution and evolution that's coming from this amazing company. Now, I've spoken a lot already in this introduction, but can we all give can we give a round of applause? Can we get a round of applause emojis in the chat as I invite to the proverbial stage Camilla as we get into this panel. Woo!
Thank you. I feel the virtual round of applause. Hi, everyone. So I am Camilla Astrid Robinson, happily go by Camilla, and I use she, her pronouns. And I head up DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion, employee engagement, and well-being. Definitely winning the title, the longest title in the world for Philip Morris, just in the UK. I have the pleasure of working with some incredible partners like this one, BYP Network, which is a really, really important part of helping us to attract a wide range of people to come and join our company. So today we're not going to talk about our product or our business in that strict sense, but what we are going to talk about is the tools to help you become a leader, right? The tools for leadership. So I'm joined by some of my incredible colleagues today, and I'm going to run through their intros just so that we all know who's on the call with us. So bear with me while I make sure that I put some respect on their names and read out their bios. Okay, so we've got Aubrey, and Aubrey has been with PMI for 13 years. 13 years, 13 incredible years. Don't worry, I won't do that for everyone. So Aubrey kicked off his PMI career in our field sales team in Italy, and over time has worked across our sales strategy, marketing, business planning, and strategy and digital. In his day-to-day role, he's in charge of PML, that's our UK affiliate, digital marketing and digital commerce presence, with activities cutting across paid media, SEO, social media, and e-commerce. Aubrey is a member of our PMI Embrace team, that is our race and ethnicity employee resource group, championing causes cutting across all races. His focus area within that Embrace ERG sits with building communities and expanding PMI's reach and influence. Outside of PML, Aubrey is a proud dad of two. Spending time with family has become a constant routine on weeks, and professionally, Aubrey supports Black-owned FMCG startups serving in NED or NED, keep me honest here, and advisory roles in some of these establishments. He's a firm believer in the concept of creating an impact where possible, and that's where his drive sits in, and outside his professional engagements. So welcome, Aubrey.
Thank you,
Sandra. Perfect. Sandra is purpose-led with a proven record of over 30 years creating successful strategies to deliver policy and programs, communication campaigns in the UK and India. She leads with integrity and fairness. Fellow of the Chartered Management Institute, an accredited commercial specialist and certified coach. Passionate advocate for diversity, equity and inclusion, social mobility and careers. She has been coaching and mentoring underrepresented groups for over 20 years and is a UN Women UK delegate for gender equality. As Senior Manager, Regulatory Affairs for UK and Ireland, she leads a team accelerating transformation towards the UK government's smoke-free 2030 target. Welcome, Sandra. Ashley. So with over 12 years of immersive involvement in digital communications, Ashley has cultivated his expertise in navigating the dynamic landscape of online engagement. As a leader, he has steered digital communication teams overseeing the management of flagship websites within the prestigious FTSE 100 group. He is currently serving as the head of web content for PMI.com, shaping strategic initiatives that propel our online presence. Leading by example, he fosters a culture of innovation and excellence within his team, driving forward-thinking strategies that resonate with PMI's audience and drive measurable results. His proficiency spans the spectrum of digital communication channels, from harnessing the power of social media to crafting compelling storytelling campaigns. Leveraging advanced analytics and cutting-edge technologies, he continuously optimizes digital platforms to deliver seamless user experiences that captivate and convert. With a relentless commitment to staying ahead of industry trends and a track record of delivering impactful results, his passion is driving digital transformation and elevating brand visibility in an ever-evolving digital landscape. Welcome, Ashley. Last but not least, Adrian. So Adrian has joined PMI to the position of Head of Information Security Risk Management in April 2023 from HSBC, where he was responsible for the development and update of the bank's operational risk management framework in alignment with industry best practices and regulatory principles. His 30+ years international experience in the US, UK, Australia, and the Caribbean includes development and implementation of risk management frameworks, performance of IT audits and third-party assurance assessments with over 25 years at Big Four global professional services firms, including KPMG and PwC. He has also in the past provided key insights at a senior leadership level, primarily in the financial services industry, having worked with a number of large global investment, retail banking, and asset management organizations, including HSBC, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs. So at PMI, he's currently leading the development of PMI's IT risk management capability in close collaboration with other IT and risk assurance functions. He's also responsible for maintaining stability on PMI's IT risk management posture to management and for developing and continuously improving PMI's IT risk management framework and methodology. Wow.
Right.
Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So welcome to all of our panelists. And now that you know who's on the call, I'll hand over to them to share a little bit about their teams and talk to you about why they're passionate to be here today. So Sandra, should we start off with you?
Yeah. Hi. I'll keep this bit quick because then we can get into the meat of it.
Sandra.
Who's that? I heard of somebody. Okay. So I, Senior Manager Regulatory Affairs for UK and Ireland, excited to be here today because diversity and inclusion is really important. And what Camilla, ML, all of the team do is really amazing to do this kind of thing in our own time to really let you know that PMI is an inclusive employer. We want to attract more diverse talent to the organisation. So my job is primarily working with government. I'm from the civil service, so it was an apt role for me to do. And it's exciting to be here. So I'll leave that for now so we can keep trotting along.
Should I go next?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Hi, I head up the InfoSec risk management function within PMI, and I have a team of 10 people, including 3 contractors. Diversity is very key for me. I've got, in my team of 10, I've got two members with Caribbean backgrounds, including myself. I have one from an African background from Ghana, actually. And two female representatives, including one at manager level. So I'm quite proud of that. And I'm looking to hire 2 additional people and hoping that we get some diversity, some additional diversity to my team. So diversity is very important to me, and I know it's important to leadership levels in PMI, particularly in the UK. In fact, I had a conversation just last week with the head of PMI UK talking about that very topic. So very keen and supportive. Thank you.
I can go next. So Ashley, I head up the PMI.com web team. So we manage the company's main website. Just because I know people always get confused, this is very separate from the marketing stuff. We deal strictly in the regulatory and communication side of things. So that's what we work on. I manage a team of 10 people at the moment, a mixture of permanent staff and some contractors, plus a few agencies. So there's quite a few different people across my team. And just to sort of parrot what Adrian just said, I think diversity is a very important part of building a team. For me, not just in terms of background, but in terms of experiences and what people bring to the table. And we'll get more into that as we discuss things, I'm sure. But definitely one of the most important and fundamental things to the things we do, especially given we are communicators, is having a diverse range of thoughts and contributions from various people.
Thanks, Ashley, and thanks everyone for making it today. I think I'm last. So first of all, nice to meet you all. My name is Aubrey. Thank you so much, Camilla, for that wonderful intro, and thanks for BYP for getting all of us here. And so I've got a pleasure of leading the team. I think together we are 5 overall, and temporarily I'm extending my reach into another team. I've always said the beauty of my team is, and I've always managed to craft it, is we always have a representation from every continent. So I'd like to think I'm one of the few teams in PMI where we cover all major continents across the world, and that's something I'm a big believer in. I believe a lot in diversity of thought, and I believe that it takes different people to bring different thought patterns and different experiences as well. And that's me. As Camilla mentioned, I'm a big family person, massively huge family person, and I was plastered up on top of my head. Is the first thing I say, is the first thing you would notice about me. So I'm hoping my daughter or my newborn does not step in here, but if they do, please do forgive me. And I welcome you all to give them a warm embrace. Looking forward to exchanging and learning from you as well today. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everyone. And yes, let's absolutely leave room for us to be human. So if human stuff happens, family members come in, etc., completely okay. So we're here to equip our audience with the tools for becoming a strong leader. So let's start from the beginning. From your perspective, what makes a strong leader? And who are the leaders, Black or otherwise, who inspire you? Sandra, would you like to go first? I'm going to try not to pick you every time.
Yeah. So what makes a strong leader? I think that word strong is quite interesting, because actually I think to be a strong leader, you have to show humility and vulnerability, which is juxtaposed with the word strong. And I think, what do I mean by that? When you work with people, like you just said, Camilla, people bring their whole selves to work, their children, their grandchildren, their whatever. And you have to be able to get the best out of people, understand who they are and understand their vulnerability. So for me, becoming a strong leader has really been about the ability to see people as a whole, the ability to understand who people are in the workplace, not just their degree, masters, whatever it is that they're bringing to us, but who they are. Because if you understand people, you're going to get more out of them as a manager. I've been a successful manager for a long time and been asked to coach for a long time, because I understand people. I've learned, and I spend a lot of time trying to understand who in my team, where do they even travel from? What are their pinch points? What are their pain points? What's going on for them at home? Some people say, oh, you spend a lot of time cosseting, but it's not. It's actually about understanding, because if you understand your people, they will go the extra mile for you. they will transform for you, they will do what's required. In terms of who I admire, I think for me, Obama was a really great leader when he was in post, because he showed an amazing amount of resilience, being the first Black president in the White House and being attacked from all sides, but he was full of grace. You didn't see any anger. There was none of this negative stuff that we're getting about the current crop of potential presidential candidates who are now on trial for this, that, and the other. He just kept a simple life. And he was a very gracious man. And I think for me, that's what the things I try to model as a leader: grace, humility, simplicity.
Fantastic. Nice way to start us off. Ashley, I see you've come off mute. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I think, and apologies, I'm going to echo a lot of the things Sandra just said, because it is true. I think the first thing I think that makes a strong leader is to be humble enough to realize that you don't know everything. I think that's one of the first things that I sort of learned really early on, and I try to embody whenever I deal with my team. I work across so many different projects with people who are extremely talented in their areas. I'm not always at every meeting, I'm not always deep into the information, and it takes a certain level of humility to kind of understand that, you know, in specific areas, your team knows more than you, and you have to give them the license and the ability to push things forwards without you constantly needing to have oversight over them. So definitely humility, and I think compassion is another one that I think is very important to me, because a lot of people are going through things, and it's not things that you necessarily see. You don't always know what they're going through. That they don't always wear it on their face or bring it to work with them. Sometimes it's hidden in the way they communicate with you, or the way they don't communicate with you in some instances. And it's having the compassion to and understanding to know that you can't treat everyone in your team the same way, and you have to find the best way to approach each individual in your team to, so that you're constantly making sure that you're getting the best out of them, but you're also showing them and giving them the best platform to actually be their best. And I think for me, I always say one of my sort of inspirations for the way I try to lead things is one of my first managers when I was back at Rio Tinto, because I felt like it one of the things that she sort of really embodied for me was those two traits. It was kind of understanding that, in amongst a company of people who were all very sort of one way, I was very different, and I was never made to feel like I was different. So I think it's very important that you treat people that way.
Wonderful, love that. Aubrey, do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. I was hoping I didn't go last, because then I would have nothing to say after Sandra and Ashley, and then Adrian had gone. So Adrian, good luck to you there. I'm going to exhaust all the points and I leave you with nothing. Absolutely. But anyway, look, I think for me, the point of a strong leader, and thanks Sandra for echoing the word strong. I had absolutely ignored that. But then I would say, as Sandra mentioned earlier, leading with grace. There's something I've always been massively tuned with, and that is anyone who has the ability to prioritize connection over correction. And so, because as leader, especially when things are not going well, the first thing you will tend to move into is correction mode, also because you have the feeling that you almost know it all. And so I think you have to have that humility to understand exactly what's happening, leading with that grace element, and just having a mindset that you can always start with connection. And then of course at some point correction can come in, but you have to prioritize that first. Definitely the point on vulnerability resonates with me as well. I think everyone should bring themselves, and yes, we should feel free to be human. Whether you're leading a team of 20 or a team of 1,000, I think humans relate to humans a lot. And the more people realize you're not robots, it just helps to have the personal feel and the connection. And then there are two things which actually I've always come to enjoy. The first, I believe, is a concept we all know. So when things are not going too well, a leader should always be a leader should be like captain of a ship, right? Where you're always the last to leave the sort of sinking boat, and not to necessarily leave your people in the mud. So it's let's say if anything is meant to fall, you should fall on the sword and not your team members. And then I think at the same time, when things are going brilliantly well, you should be like the wolf pack, right? The leader is the one who's always at the back of the pack, ensure no one is left behind and that everybody is right on course, and not necessarily the one who wants to steal the limelight for themselves. And so there's something that I'm massively big on is also giving a stage to everybody in my team, right, from graduates up to very experienced people. You should enjoy being in the back and allow your team to shine. And so for me, these are the things that's guide me a lot. And I think maybe if I should add another one to it, it will be not not being afraid to decide as well. No, I know we can have very different schools of thoughts, but then my X number of experience as a manager has always taught me that sometimes people want you to have a clear course of action. And as a leader, whether you do that collectively, which I always advise people to do that collectively so you can have people buy in, it's always best to be able to bring people in to have a direction that people can then follow. It definitely helps to keep the team in good shape and steered into the correct place, hopefully. All right. Over to you, Adrian.
Yeah, you guys haven't left a lot for me to kind of chew on. Okay, so I think for me, one of the key things about leadership is to be authentic, to be yourself, and to be approachable, because you want your team to be able to feel like they can come to you with whatever they have, whether it be personal or work related. You want to be that kind of authentic, approachable open person that they can come to. The other thing that I've always admired in a leader is being able to stand up for what they believe in, and that's also not just not just for themselves, but also backing the team, right? So if there's you want to have a leader who can go to bat for you, right? So if you have a problem, they're right there beside you, going to bat for you, going the extra mile, right? Not making you feel like you're having to deal with something all by yourself, right? And for me, then leadership is also about being true to your core values, right? So core values being do unto others, as you would have them do unto you type thing, and being there for people, etc. And really what you want to do is to make sure that they feel that you're there for them, and you are you know their best friend, really, obviously in a work type situation, but really you want to engender that kind of that camaraderie, that relationship. And it's really all about building that trust, really. They have to trust you, and that if that trust breaks down, then you have no chance of being a true leader. And in terms of who inspires me as a leader, this may not many people may be familiar with this one. Emperor Haile Selassie the First. He, for me, is like he's my personal hero. And the reasons for that is not just for who he was. He was, for me, the embodiment of 3,000 years of African history, right? And not many people know this. His lineage, he can trace his lineage all the way back to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. 3,000 years of lineage. He presided over an African country that was never colonized. He formed the Organization of African Unity, which now is the African Union. It still is in Addis Ababa, the That's where the headquarters of the African Union is, that he founded in 1963. And the one thing that stands out for me is when he gave a speech. Everyone knows the "I Have a Dream" speech, Martin Luther King. Although Martin Luther King is still close to my heart. But 2 months after that, Haile Selassie gave a speech as a head of state at the United Nations, where his words actually are immortalized in Bob Marley's song "War." Some of you might be familiar with these lyrics. Until the philosophy that holds one man superior and another inferior is finally and totally discredited and abandoned, until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. Until then, the African continent will not be free, and we will fight because we believe in the victory of good over evil. So he delivered that speech at the United Nations in 1963, the height of at the height of the civil rights movement. 2 months after Martin Luther King delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech, and not many people even know about this speech, or know the fact that Bob Marley immortalized these words. And I would advise all of you to listen to that song "War" by Bob Marley.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you all so much. Incredible leaders for us to learn from. And I hope that we can double click on some of this later. And actually, Adrian, I remember you sharing quite a lot of what you've just spoken about during our Black History Month conversation and the session that you led on African history. We'll double click on that later. I want to make sure that we get through some of the brilliant questions that we've lined up for everyone today. So you all spoke about incredible subjects. So vulnerability, humanity, authenticity, being a leader who has values and is values led. Absolutely love all of those. And I would love for us to double click on that. And I think that a lot of those skills and qualities are things that are honed and developed over time, right? So if we think about some of the people on our call today who may be new to careers and working in, in corporate, etc., and may feel like they don't yet have those qualities. So if we all think back and think about how we readied ourselves for people manager roles, how did you all prepare yourself for that first leadership role? And maybe I'll start off with you, Ashley.
Good question. I have to say, it was more, it was less preparation and more thrusted upon me. It wasn't really sort of something that I had a chance to prepare for. So I had to learn as I sort of went along the way. And fortunate for me, when I started managing people, it was just a couple of people. And so it was a lot easier to then systematically hone my my skills by listening, learning as much from them as the different things that were happening. I think now that it's been several years later, and I look back, and it's actually interesting because I'm currently doing a course internally actually within PMI about building leadership skills and communications and leading with authenticity. And I think one of the things that is very sort of apparent to me that I didn't know then that I know now is you have to not become what your idea of a leader is and just be yourself. There was very much the idea initially in my head of well, this is what a manager would do. This is how a manager should behave. And through time and through experience, I actually learned that it's actually more beneficial to a team to embody the reasons why you were given that position in the first place, rather than try to become something else in order to try to portray something to people.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add on to that?
If I can chip in something here, I think Ashley said it's definitely you can never be prepared enough. Especially if you're managing humans, which I hope is exactly what's we allowed to. We are completely different people. Even twins are massively different, and you can there's no amount of books you could read that would prepare you. It would prepare you, but you'd never be prepared enough. I had a challenge of managing my peers for the very first time, and so I was on a finance team, and finance normally organizations are flat, so you have lots of people reporting into one manager. And at some point, I just got a call to step up, and that was, first of all, these were guys I used to play football with, I used to go to dinner with, and the next day I had to be doing their performance reviews and whatnot. So it's the first thing is you'd never be prepared enough, and I think you should inculcate the idea of and as we said earlier, humanity and the fact that you also have lots of learning to do because there's a learning curve for everyone. And that's why I feel that if you manage to be vulnerable to your team, then they understand you, they are forgiving of you as well, which I've come to understand is of very paramount importance to me. And then ultimately, I think the only thing I can add is look, feel free to copy with pride, especially if you have leaders you do admire. You should copy them. Feel free to emulate them. Of course, you can't take everything from them, but there may be three things that a leader who may have managed you in the past would have done and you've admired. Feel free to emulate that. And if you do emulate it, give him his due. Let him know that, hey, I did one or two and it just worked absolutely fine. Because then he becomes a better leader, and it just becomes something. It becomes a chain that everybody can tap into. Those are my 2 cents on the matter.
Sandra, I saw you came off mute. Don't know if you wanted to add.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I disagree and agree with some of the things that have been said. So I think you never stop learning, and I think you can learn the theory of being a leader by studying, which I did. And when I came from the civil service, which everything was quite hierarchical, you had to study for the next grade, and that's how I became a fellow of the Chartered Management Institute. But the biggest thing that helped me to become a leader, so I do think those core skills and what Ashley said he's doing now are a really good foundation. But the biggest thing that helped me to become a leader was my life experience, which I don't think anyone can train you to do. So that, and I think that brings in Adrian's point about being authentic. I'm from a large family of 8 siblings. I'm in the middle, and I've done courses on leading from the middle, and I've been doing that my whole life. And you kind of have to understand how to work with difference and people. And you get that a lot from your family background. You get that a lot from being a parent or a friend. And so that leads me to my last point, which is that everyone can be a leader. Even if they're not at your grade, I encourage everyone to lead things in my team, because we all are leaders, and we all have things to bring from our life, being a parent, we're leading at home, we're doing so many things. And the best interviews I've ever done is actually when somebody says to me, right, give me an example, but it doesn't have to be a work one. I think we all should give everybody an opportunity. If we really want to encourage diversity, so I'm going off piste a bit, we need to be able to let people bring in different leadership skills from different experiences.
Absolutely love that.
I
think you're
100%
completely
agree
right.
with you there, Sandra, because, and I was actually going to say some of that because becoming a parent, I did that late in life, and it was interesting when I had the kids, and you see those skills that you need as a manager, being played out when you're looking after your kids. I know this may seem strange. You shouldn't treat your team like children. I'm not advocating that at all, but I'm just saying, you do, those skills that you have in terms of influencing, right? Particularly, difficult kids, and those influencing skills and cajoling, and having to kind of be firm, and stick to your guns type thing. All those things, as you learn as a parent, are transferable skills to management. But the one thing I wanted to say to another point is, when you become first time you become a manager, it should be organic, right? when I say organic is you shouldn't, one day you're, not a manager, the next day you're a man and you behave completely differently, right? So that's the kind of the worst case scenario. You have to kind of grow into that role. So, start displaying management type skills before, or behaviors before you become a manager. And then, continue to grow those as you grow into management, because you're not going to, one day behave one way, particularly if you're in the same team, and the next day behave a completely different way. When you become a manager, that will tend to put people off, right? They'll not trust you. They won't want to work with you. So, make it sort of, if you transition, particularly in a team, from, being a team member to being a manager of a team, to, make that organic, make that change smooth and seamless for the rest of the team, right? So that, and you will grow. You need to grow as a manager. Don't try to get there too quickly, right? So, it needs to be organic, authentic, and build, like a building blocks, right? You add another string to your bow. You add another, skill. You move into, you grow into management. So try not to do it too quickly, and try to be authentic and true to yourself as you transition into that role.
Fab. Thank you, team. So talking of transitions and growth, and I saw one of the questions pop up, which has actually moved too quickly in the chat because there's lots coming in. Sure. Aubrey, having been at PMI for 13 years, I know I've brought that up a lot. You've had experience spanning so many different departments. And I know that a lot of those roles may have come through internal networking and, I guess, building relationships and being able to transition. So can you share how you approach building relationships and how you've positioned yourself to take on such a diverse range of roles?
Yeah, thanks, Camilla.
Sorry, really quickly.
Yeah.
If maybe we keep these answers a bit short and snappy, then we can get through hopefully a lot more.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. So I think, first of all, let me clarify. Yes, I've been in PMI for 13 years, but I'm still relatively young. And so please do not listen too much to Camilla. I just ventured into my mid-30s. I want to make that straightforward before people think otherwise. But hey ho. So yes, I've had the pleasure of working through nine different roles in PMI. And I think, Camilla, you mentioned it briefly well. What really stands out is that 6 of those roles have come from relationships with people, as in building connections and using that as a springboard to step into a role. And the first thing I want to say is that a network provides you foreknowledge. If I want to roll in Ashley's team and I get close to Ashley, we have a conversation. At some points before even the role is published, I would have understood exactly what Ashley is looking for, and that will position me already in a really good place to be the candidate who then gets chosen. I think the one thing that has worked for me very well is coming prepared, because yes, it's good to have a network, but then ultimately you want to make sure that whoever you're connected to sees you in a certain light. And so I always say this: building a network is very draining. Anytime I lobby, I tend to raise the bar a lot. I kid you not. I'm sending emails to people I want roles in their team, and I'm taking time to shape it up to make sure it does come with a certain level. And that has worked for me. Ultimately, I say, even if you build networks and you're not stepping into roles, sometimes it's taking me 2 years. When I wanted to move in finance, it took me exactly 2 years to work on this and ultimately make myself a good fit for the role there. And I always like to tell people, even if you're not getting the role which you wanted to, what happens is that these networks of yours, whether they're friends, mentors, mentees, they become voices, they become allies to you. And so because we're humans and we're not omnipresent, when you happen to have anything to be in a when you happen to not be in a room and things are said about you, this wide network can then step in for you. And so for me, that is how I've approached it and why I've approached networking. And if 6 out of 9 has worked, I'll recommend everybody to strongly do so. Thank you.
Thank you. So you just touched on mentorship there, and I'm going to double click on that. So I know, Sandra, at the beginning of this year, you took on an additional role as a mentor in a cross-company mentorship program that PMI and some of our peers are participating in. And I wonder if there are specific challenges that you've seen that folks are commonly experiencing in the kind of emerging leader stage that you can give us some tips on how to navigate.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Camilla, and your team for setting all of that up. I've been mentoring somebody from KPMG, which has been a game changer because I'm learning, we work with them, but seeing I'm getting an inside track and understanding of some of the pinch points and the issues that particular young lady is facing. And she's actually planning a move back to the States. So won't say obviously who she is, but so that's really interesting. So mentoring, you learn so much. I've always said to people, instead of looking for a mentor, be a mentor. So everybody says, I want mentoring, but are there people that you can mentor? So I think that's the first thing. I think the organization that PMI doing, the cross sector, is really great that we can learn from each other. That's all diversity. I actually talked about diversity of thought. You get all of that when you're mentoring outside of your sector. So, and I think it's a brilliant opportunity to do that. In terms of, are you saying some of the issues, Camilla, that have come up?
Yeah, I guess things that people might be navigating early in career or as they move into that kind of leadership space.
Well, one of your questions, and I know you're going probably through things sequentially, but somebody mentioned unconscious bias. That is something that, as a woman of color, you do sometimes get in your career and is more overt if you're in a junior level. And I think it's wise to call it out because it does happen. And I think, again, Adrian mentioned trust. I think you really have to build up that trusting relationship or find people that you can trust, even if it's not your line manager. If you're in that unfortunate position, who can advocate on your behalf, who can speak up for you, because a lot of the times we are unseen. If you are a minority in an organization, you're not always seen, you don't always have a voice, and you want to be noticed, right? And the unconscious bias could be that you're just overlooked. So how do you get around that? Again, network, find advocates, find sponsors, attend events like this, BYP, PMI, what you're doing is amazing. These are things that people need to attend. Approach people in the chat and say, could you mentor me? And I think that's how you're seen in your organization. Join groups like Embrace, all of these staff groups. Don't just think about your team, think about the wider team across the organization. A lot of the times people are marginalized because, and I've managed people as well, because they're sitting by themselves in a dark corner, not wanting to mix. And so it becomes a vicious cycle where they feel like they're being excluded and then they're excluding themselves. You have to almost go opposite and rogue and say, no, if I'm being excluded, I've got to join things. I've got to be part of things and I've got to be noticed. So I'll leave it there because I know time is short, but I just wanted to say those points.
Thank you. Just double clicking on that piece around advocacy and how we advocate for ourselves. So Ashley, with you coming from the web content side and digital communications, I wonder if you have any tips for us on how we can advocate for ourselves and make sure that we are well positioned for opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some really fantastic points already raised around mentoring and network building. I think if I can just focus in on one thing to directly answer your question, but then a second thing that's sort of parallel to it, I think just being very, very authentic, especially when it comes to digital presence, is very important. Don't try to be something you're not. I've worked with so many people who have tried to, shape themselves to become something that that isn't quite right for them, and then they go into a workplace and find that the culture doesn't suit them or the environment isn't for them, and then they wonder why they don't fit in, and it's because they're trying to find experiences that isn't aligned to what they believe in or who they are. There's nothing wrong with saying to yourself, this is who I am, this is what I want from a job, and then pursuing that. I think the worst thing you can do is try to work somewhere because you feel like this is where I should be and you don't fit in. So I do always think trying to remain authentic as much as possible is very super important, especially to personal happiness. But just also in terms of developing and going further, I also think it's very important to seize opportunities. A lot of the things that have happened to me in my career is just because I've just happened to be in the right place and said yes to something that somebody else would have said no to. I think it's very important to to when something happens, or there's a project that nobody else seems to want to work on, or there's a deadline and everyone's complaining about hitting that deadline, or there's an opportunity that somebody's mentioned. Ask if you can work on the project. Ask if you can be involved. It's funny because I used to be somebody who had an issue doing stuff like that. Being very self-conscious. And one thing I've learned is if you don't ask, you don't get. You have to ask the question, and the worst thing they can say is no. So, ask.
Thank you. I think final question, and then we'll move to the Q&A is absolutely popping. So, Adrian, I'll take this one to you. You have such fantastic international experience, and I wonder if there have been any cultural differences that you've seen in leadership styles based in whether it's the UK, the US, the Caribbean, etc. Is there anything that you can tell us about how to maybe adapt your leadership style based on environment?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've been lucky to have worked in lots of different places: Australia, US, Caribbean, UK. And they're huge. They're huge cultural differences from each of those places. Sometimes night and day. Right. So, yes, you need to adapt. It's important to have what I like to call situational awareness. So often the best skill you can have in these situations is to listen, and not feel you always have to contribute immediately, because you could come up with something that's completely inappropriate for the culture, for the situation, and because you're bringing a lot of cultural, you actually bring a lot of cultural bias with you, and you have to recognize that you're bringing that baggage, and you need to kind of unpack it. So the difference between working in a Caribbean country versus working in the United States or what have you, right? Massive differences. So you have to recognize that, but you need to also be authentic to yourself. So people always say to me, Adrian, how come I left the Caribbean in what, 97? Right. Haven't lived there since 97, but I'm still who I am when I left, more or less. I've adapted. Not I like to use the word adapt rather than adopt, because adapting is more about I'm taking something that I've seen someone else do, and I'm making it more about me. I'm changing it to work for me, basically, rather than pulling something that I've seen someone do, just because it's sort of a cultural norm, and trying to use that, because it won't fly. It won't come across right. I can't take an American kind of corporate approach to things, because that's that is not necessarily going to come across for me. I can take a polished Caribbean approach to things, right? Yeah. So you have to kind of understand what would work in different situations, not jump in because you say, oh, that's wrong or this is wrong the minute you get somewhere, because you have to understand the context, have that situational and cultural awareness, but you won't get that immediately. It will take time, so you need to sit, listen, watch, learn, and understand that. But also, one of the things I found quite useful in situations like that is again the kind of thing you mentioned, Sandra, is the outside of work stuff, right? And you can't get that cultural acclimatization, if that's a word, unless you start to kind of extend your network, shall we say, into the community, right? And then you kind of understand context, you understand cultural relevance, etc. So like, for instance, when I first went to Australia, I started swimming a lot because everybody swam, but I had to start off in the kiddie pool, right? Because I couldn't do a length of a 50-meter pool when I got there, but by the end I was doing kilometers, right? So
Thank you.
but that is over time, and it takes effort, right? To get those things. I learned to play golf, water ski, all those things that then I could go out on my manager's boat with him and water ski with him type thing. And, I was comfortable in the water, so kind of, getting that kind of acclimatization and being, doing things out of your comfort zone is key to doing that. And, don't sort of feel when you get somewhere, you have to kind of contribute immediately, right? Because you need to first of all understand where you are and the cultural context before you start sort of saying, yeah, let's maybe fix this, or let's do it this way.
Thanks, Adrian. So really quickly, I'm going to ask you to try and give like snappy one-word answers almost. No, don't worry. So I see a question which has just moved in the chat. Where was that from? I think it was from Blessing. How do you balance being a good leader with ensuring your team meets their objectives and team members get constructive feedback in a diverse setting? You can answer that one really quickly.
I can. Communication. You have to know what their workload is like, all the variables that you're not aware of when you're setting targets and objectives. So communicate with them as much as possible.
Excellent, thank you. I would love to double click on these, but I don't have the time. What's the best way to manage difficult team members? That one's from Chandra.
But for me?
So from Chandra, best way to manage difficult team members.
I would just quickly add to that find out what drives them. Going back to my original point at the start of this talk, people are people, and they're not just the qualifications and the job titles. So find out what drives them and explain the vision that you're trying to get to as well. And people tend to buy into something when it's bigger than themselves. So if somebody's being difficult, find out what the driver is, what are the key issues for them, and try and paint the picture for them of where you're trying to get to, and show them their role in that. And once people understand that they're valued and they're appreciated, that's more likely for them to get on board.
Fantastic, thank you. Someone's asked, how do you go about finding a mentor?
I think Sandra, I can take this. Sandra said this. Ask. Feel free to ask. That's the easiest. If you see somebody you admire, ask the person. If you don't see anybody, I'm sure you can just look slightly harder and you'd find somebody.
And then some that I've got in the DM. Oh, they're moving so quickly. How do you deal with counterproductive leaders who don't bring much to the team? It's a nice one to end on, right?
Yeah, let me think.
Everyone has something to add.
Yeah, I've experienced this personally. I think the first thing I'd say is manage them just as you'd expect to be managed. And I understand that people bring different things. I've had a manager who knew nothing about the work, but he was so good at opening doors for us. So find that sweet spot, but feel free to manage them just as you'd expect to be managed as well. And if it's not working, leave.
I think that's important to be said. I think the big piece underlying that to me is also what you've kind of touched on really snappily, thank you, is managing upwards, right? So everyone wants to be successful. And if it's that you're finding that a manager is maybe too in the weeds with your work, maybe it's that you're not communicating enough. So we can't control anyone else's behavior, but what we can do is adapt and modify ours. So maybe someone's not hearing from you often enough. So maybe you can proactively give them those updates. I'm not sure what that piece was, but hopefully I've hit on a bit of what you were trying to get at. And I'm so aware that we are at 1:30 hour. That went so quickly. So I will say thank you so much to our panelists. Abina, I don't know if you want to come back on and say any final words.
I think you have said all the words, and so love it. Thank you everyone for coming. Hiccups have actually been attacking me since after I finished talking, and it just stopped now as I started talking again. So God is good. So everyone, I hope you've gained something today from this talk right now. As has been posted in the chat multiple times, if you're looking for a career with PMI, please click the type button and submit your CV, and they'd be happy to look into that. And all the speakers here are somewhat available on LinkedIn. Can I get some nods from the speakers? Yeah?
Yes.
So if you have further questions, please feel free to connect with them, ask for mentorship, yeah, for all the questions that haven't been answered, I also encourage you to connect with the speakers here to ask your questions to them in person. You may even get a more in-detailed and in-depth answer that way as well. So definitely look out for those opportunities. But yeah, thank you everyone for your time. Thank you, amazing panelists, for paneling the the night. I appreciate you all. And yeah, everyone have an amazing evening and an amazing dinner, which somebody in the chat is cooking right now. So enjoy your food.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks very
Thank
much,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.